I should have known something was wrong when Mom insisted on a casual family dinner on a Tuesday. Nothing about our family gatherings was ever casual. I walked into the dining room, greeted by the smell of roasted chicken and the barely concealed tension hanging in the air like smoke. My sister Claire sat at the head of the table, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her wine glass. She'd recently been promoted to senior partner at her law firm, and she never let anyone forget it. Mom and Dad flanked her sides like loyal subjects, while my younger brother Jake scrolled through his phone, probably already regretting showing up. "Charlotte, you're late," Claire announced, glancing at her Cartier watch. "By 3 minutes," I replied, sliding into my seat. Dinner started normally enough, small talk about weather, Mom's book club, Dad's golf game, but I noticed Claire kept steering the conversation toward real estate, mortgages, and financial responsibility. Each comment felt like a stone being carefully placed, building towards something. Then, between the main course and dessert, she struck. "So, Charlotte," Claire began, her voice dripping with false concern, "Mom mentioned you're thinking about buying a house. Are you sure that's wise? Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments." The table fell silent. Everyone's fork froze mid-air. I set down my glass slowly, feeling every eye on me. "What's that supposed to mean, Claire?" She sighed dramatically, the way she did in courtroom closings. "I'm just concerned about your track record. Remember the car you totaled? The credit card debt? That failed business venture selling handmade candles?" "That was 6 years ago," I said, heat rising in my cheeks. "I was 23. "Exactly my point," Claire continued, warming to her argument. "You've always been impulsive, Charlotte, irresponsible with money. A house is a massive commitment. I don't think you're ready." Mom shifted uncomfortably. Dad studied his plate intensely. Jake finally looked up from his phone, eyes wide. "I've been saving for 3 years," I said through clenched teeth. "I have a stable job, a down payment, and pre-approval from the bank. I've done everything right." Claire leaned forward, her expression that patronizing mix of pity and superiority I'd grown to hate. "The bank doesn't know you like we do. They don't know about your history of poor decisions." "Claire," Mom started. "No, Mom, someone needs to say this. Charlotte has always needed guidance, structure. She's the baby of the family, and she's never really grown up. Buying a house right now would be a disaster waiting to happen." I left that dinner shaking with rage and humiliation. Claire had blindsided me in front of our entire family, painted me as some reckless child playing at being an adult. The worst part? No one had defended me. Not Mom, not Dad, not even Jake. My phone buzzed as I drove home. A text from Mom. "Claire means well, sweetheart. She's just worried about you. Maybe wait a year or two." I didn't respond. The next morning, I called my real estate agent, Jennifer. "I want to accelerate the timeline," I told her, "whatever it takes." "Charlotte, are you sure? We discussed taking it slow, finding the perfect property." "I'm sure," I interrupted. "Show me everything in my price range. I want to close within 60 days. Over the next week, I viewed 17 properties. Claire's words echoed in my head during every showing. Too irresponsible, never grown up, poor decisions. Then I found it, a charming craftsman bungalow in a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood. It needed work, but it had good bones, original hardwood floors, and a backyard perfect for the garden I'd always dreamed of. Best of all, it was priced $15,000 below my maximum budget. "This is it," I told Jennifer. "Are you absolutely certain?" I thought of Claire's smug face. "Make the offer." The inspection revealed some issues: outdated electrical, an aging HVA system, minor foundation cracks, but nothing catastrophic. I negotiated repairs and contingencies, drawing on every episode of home improvement shows I'd binged over the years. Jennifer seemed impressed. "You've really done your homework," she said. "I had something to prove," I admitted. 3 weeks later, I sat in the title company office, signing document after document. My hand cramped, but I smiled through every signature. The seller's agent congratulated me. Jennifer handed me the keys with genuine warmth. "Congratulations, homeowner," she said. I drove to my new house, my house, and sat in the driveway for 20 minutes, just staring. It was real. I'd done it. Despite Claire's predictions of disaster, despite my family's doubt, I'd actually done it. I didn't tell anyone for 3 days. When I finally posted a photo on social media, carefully angled to show the charming front porch and mature oak trees, the responses flooded in. Friends congratulated me. Former colleagues sent champagne emojis. My cousin Rachel commented, "So proud of you." Claire sent a private message. "Is this a joke? Please tell me you didn't actually buy a house without consulting the family." I left her on read. I threw myself into renovations with an intensity that surprised even me. I hired contractors for the major work, but handled smaller projects myself. I learned to tile, to install light fixtures, to strip and refinish furniture from estate sales. My Instagram slowly transformed into a home renovation account. I documented everything, the disasters, the triumphs, the 3 a.m. moments when I questioned every life choice. My follower count grew steadily. Claire called one evening, her voice tight. "Mom says you're flipping a house now?" "Renovating my home," I corrected. "Charlotte, do you have any idea how much money you're pouring into this? What if you can't afford it? What if something goes catastrophically wrong?" "Then I'll handle it," I said calmly, like an adult. "I'm trying to protect you. No, you're trying to prove you were right about me. But I'm not the same person I was at 23, Claire, and I'm going to succeed at this whether you believe in me or not." I hung up before she could respond. The truth was, renovation was expensive and exhausting. Some nights I ate ramen for dinner because I'd spent my grocery budget on paint. But I was doing it. Every wall I painted, every fixture I installed, every decision I made independently felt like proof. 2 months into renovations, I made an unexpected discovery. While tearing out the old kitchen cabinets, I found something wedged behind them, a small metal box, rusted but intact. My contractor Carlos watched as I pried it open. Inside was a collection of old photographs, letters, and newspaper clippings. The photos showed the house in various stages of its 90-year history. The letters were correspondence between the original owners, a young couple who'd built the house in 1934. But the newspaper clippings were what caught my attention. They documented the neighborhood's history, including a feature from 1955 about the street's remarkable architecture and investment potential. "This is cool," Carlos said, reading over my shoulder. "The Historical Society would probably love this." An idea sparked. What if I documented not just my renovation, but the house's entire history? I could create something meaningful, something that honored the past while building toward the future. I spent the next week researching. I visited the local archives, interviewed elderly neighbors who remembered the area's transformation, contacted descendants of previous owners. The house's story was fascinating. It had weathered the Depression, housed soldiers returning from World War II, survived the economic downturn of the 80s. My Instagram content shifted. Instead of just before and after shots, I wove in historical context. The response was overwhelming. One post in particular exploded. I'd restored the original 1934 kitchen tile, which I'd found beneath 3 layers of linoleum. I posted a video of the reveal, explaining the painstaking restoration process and the history behind the tile pattern. Within 48 hours, the video had been viewed 2 million times. My follower count jumped from 5,000 to 75,000 overnight. Design blogs reached out for interviews. A local news station wanted to feature my restoration. "This is incredible, Charlotte," Jennifer texted. "Do you know what this could mean for your property value?" I hadn't even thought about that. I'd been so focused on proving something to Claire, to my family, to myself, that I hadn't considered the financial implications. A production company contacted me about a potential documentary series following home restorations with historical significance. Another company wanted to sponsor my renovations in exchange for product placement. I sat in my half-finished living room, surrounded by paint samples and tile samples, and laughed until I cried. Claire thought I was irresponsible, but I'd accidentally stumbled into something extraordinary. My phone rang. It was Mom. "Charlotte, we saw the news segment. Honey, this is wonderful. Your father and I are so proud." "Thanks, Mom," I said, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "Claire saw it too," Mom continued. She's very quiet about the whole thing." I bet she was. 3 weeks after the viral post, my family invited themselves over. "We want to see your house," Mom insisted. "It's been months and we've only seen photos online." I almost said no, but a petty part of me wanted them to see what I'd accomplished, wanted Claire to witness it firsthand. They arrived on a Saturday afternoon. I'd spent the morning stress cleaning, even though half the house was still under construction. Mom and Dad brought a housewarming plant. Jake brought beer. Claire brought skepticism. "It's smaller than I imagined," she said, standing in the entryway. "Cozy," Mom corrected quickly. "It's cozy." I gave them the tour, showed them the restored hardwood floors, the renovated bathroom with its clawfoot tub, the kitchen with its period-appropriate tile. I explained the historical significance, the research I'd done, the media attention. Dad kept nodding appreciatively. Jake seemed genuinely impressed. Mom gushed over every detail. Claire remained silent, her expression unreadable. We sat in the backyard, the one part of the property I'd barely touched, drinking beer and eating the charcuterie board Mom had insisted on bringing. "The neighborhood seems nice," Dad said. "Good investment potential." "That's what I thought," I replied. "Property values have increased 18% in the last year alone." Claire set down her wine glass sharply. "Claire," Mom warned. "No, it's a fair question," I said calmly. "I've spent $32,000 so far. The sponsorships have covered about half of that. My property has already appreciated enough to offset the rest." Claire's jaw tightened. "You got lucky. One viral post doesn't make you a successful homeowner or a savvy investor." "You're right," I agreed. "But consistent hard work, smart decisions, and strategic planning do. All things I've demonstrated over the past 6 months." "This doesn't change your history." "Yes, it does," I interrupted. "That's exactly what it does. People grow, Claire. They learn from mistakes. They become better versions of themselves. The only one stuck in the past here is you." The backyard fell silent. A bird chirped somewhere. Jake took a long sip of beer. "I was trying to protect you," Claire said, finally. "No, you were trying to control me, to keep me in the role you'd assigned me, the irresponsible baby sister who needs saving. But I don't need saving, Claire. I never did. I just needed the chance to prove myself." Mom looked like she might cry. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Claire stood abruptly. "I need to go." She left without saying goodbye. Mom and Dad stayed for another hour, making apologetic small talk. After they departed, Jake hung back. "That was pretty badass," he said. "Thanks," I replied, emotionally exhausted. "She'll come around eventually. Claire hates being wrong, but she's not heartless." I wasn't so sure. The documentary series offer became a reality. The production company wanted to feature my restoration of the flagship episode of their new show, Hidden Histories, Restoration Stories. The contract included a substantial stipend, creative control approval, and promotion across their platforms. It was an opportunity I couldn't refuse. Filming began in October. A crew of 7 descended on my little bungalow, capturing every detail. The producer, Simone, was a whirlwind of energy and ideas. "Your story is perfect," she said. "Young woman overcomes family doubt, discovers historical treasure, builds something meaningful. It's got everything." "I'd prefer not to focus too much on the family conflict part," I said. Simone waved this away. "We'll keep it tasteful, just enough to add emotional depth." The crew filmed for 3 weeks. They captured me working on the restoration, interviewed the elderly neighbors I'd spoken with, included footage of the historical documents I'd discovered. They even got a statement from the Historical Preservation Society praising my work. One evening, after a long day of filming, Simone asked, "What made you decide to buy this house, really?" I considered lying, giving some profound answer about historical preservation or investment strategy, but I was tired of pretense. "My sister told my family I was too irresponsible to own a home," I admitted. Simone smiled. "And did you?" "I proved something to myself," I said. "That's what matters."
The episode premiered on a major streaming platform in January. Simone had edited it beautifully. My story intertwined with the house's history, the renovation footage showcasing both struggle and triumph. The family conflict was mentioned, but handled delicately. A brief segment showed me explaining. Someone I loved doubted my ability to do this. That doubt became fuel. The response was overwhelming. The episode trended on social media. My Instagram gained 300,000 followers in a week. Design magazines requested interviews. A book publisher reached out about documenting my process. But the message that mattered most came from an unexpected source. Claire texted, "Can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. She looked tired, older somehow than her 34 years. "I watched the documentary," she said, without preamble. And you were right, about everything." She stirred her latte obsessively. "I convinced myself I was protecting you, but really I was projecting my own fears. When you were struggling in your 20s, it terrified me. What if you never figured it out? What if I had to watch you fail over and over?" "So you tried to prevent me from even trying?" "Yes," she admitted, "which was unfair and controlling and everything you accused me of being." Claire's hands shook slightly as she spoke. I'd never seen my composed, confident sister look so vulnerable. "When we were growing up, I felt responsible for you," she continued. "Mom and Dad worked so much, and I was the oldest. I made it my job to keep you safe, keep you from making mistakes. But somewhere along the way, that protectiveness turned into something else: control, judgment. I needed to make my own mistakes," I said quietly. "I know that now. Watching you succeed, truly succeed, not just get lucky, it forced me to examine my own behavior, and I didn't like what I saw." She met my eyes finally. "I'm sorry, Charlotte. Genuinely, deeply sorry for doubting you, for undermining you, for trying to keep you small so I could feel important." I'd imagined this moment countless times. In my fantasies, I was cold, unforgiving, making Claire work for forgiveness. But sitting across from my sister, seeing real remorse in her eyes, I felt the anger drain away. "I forgive you," I said, "but things need to change between us." "I know. I want them to. I want to support you the way a sister should." We talked for 2 hours, unpacking years of complicated family dynamics. It wasn't a magical fix, relationships don't work that way, but it was a genuine start. When we parted, Claire hugged me tight. "I really am proud of you," she whispered. The documentary's success opened unexpected doors. A venture capital firm reached out with an intriguing proposal. They wanted to fund a business helping others document and preserve historically significant homes. "We see massive potential here," the partner, David, explained over Zoom. "There's a growing market for sustainable renovation, historical preservation, and authentic storytelling. You've demonstrated expertise in all three." The proposed business model was elegant. I'd consult on historically sensitive renovations, create content documenting the process, and eventually train others in the methodology. The firm would provide initial capital, business infrastructure, and connections. "What's the catch?" I asked. "No catch. We're offering $250,000 in seed funding for 20% equity. You'd maintain creative control and majority ownership." I spent a week researching, consulting with a lawyer Jake recommended, running numbers until my eyes crossed. The opportunity was legitimate and potentially lucrative, but it would mean leaving my stable job, taking a risk. The old Charlotte might have been paralyzed by fear, but I'd bought a house, survived a renovation, launched a minor media career. What was one more leap? I accepted the offer. Mom cried when I told her. "My entrepreneurial daughter," she said proudly. Claire sent a thoughtful email outlining legal considerations and offering to review my contracts pro bono. "Just as a sister," she wrote, "not as a critic." Heritage Home Consulting launched in March. I hired a small team, a contractor, a researcher, a social media manager, and a videographer. We took on 3 projects.
Because it wasn't about proving Claire wrong anymore. It was about building something meaningful, something lasting, something that mattered beyond my own vindication. The Victorian Street Project won awards. Historic preservation societies praised it as a model for urban renewal. Business journals analyzed its financial success. Design publications celebrated its aesthetic achievement. I was invited to speak at a national conference about sustainable development. The audience was 1,500 people: developers, architects, preservationists, investors. Standing at that podium, I thought about the family dinner 18 months earlier. Claire's condescending voice. "You've always been irresponsible with money." "I started this journey wanting to prove someone wrong," I told the audience, "but I ended it proving something to myself, that growth is always possible, that doubt can become fuel, that our past doesn't dictate our future." The standing ovation was gratifying, but more meaningful were the conversations afterward, people sharing their own stories of overcoming doubt, taking risks, building against the odds. A young woman approached me, nervous and eager. "My family thinks I'm crazy for wanting to start a preservation business," she said, "but your story gives me hope." "Then let me give you some advice," I replied. "Don't do it to prove them wrong. Do it because the work matters, because you believe in it, because you can't imagine doing anything else. The rest is just noise." She hugged me, thanked me, walked away looking determined. I understood exactly how she felt. The production company approached me about a follow-up documentary focused on the Victorian Street project, but they wanted something different this time. "We want to explore the emotional journey," Simone explained, "the relationship with your sister, how doubt transformed into determination, what success really means." I hesitated. My relationship with Claire had healed, grown into something healthy and supportive. Did I want to rehash old wounds publicly? "Claire would need to participate," I said. "I won't tell her story without her permission." To my surprise, Claire agreed immediately. "If our experience can help other families navigate similar dynamics, it's worth the discomfort," she said. Filming was emotionally intense. Claire and I sat together, discussing that initial dinner, the hurt and anger, the slow journey toward understanding. "I projected my own fears onto Charlotte," Claire explained to the camera. "I'd built my identity around being the successful, responsible one. When she started succeeding on her own terms, it threatened that identity. And I used her doubt as motivation," I added, "which worked but also kept me tied to her opinion. Real growth came when I stopped needing to prove anything to anyone." The documentary aired 8 months later. The response was even more powerful than the first. It sparked national conversations about family dynamics, sibling relationships, the nature of support versus control. Claire and I appeared on talk shows together, discussing healthy family relationships and personal growth. It was surreal and healing in unexpected ways. Heritage Home Consulting had grown beyond my wildest projections. We'd completed 47 renovations, employed 32 people, and established a nonprofit arm providing preservation education. But I was restless. There was more work to do, bigger impact to make. I developed a new initiative, partnering with cities to identify historically significant properties at risk, then creating financial models making preservation more viable than demolition. The first pilot program launched in 3 cities simultaneously. It required massive coordination, significant funding, and more staff. I promoted key team members to leadership roles and hired aggressively. "You're building an empire," David from the VC firm noted during a board meeting. "I'm building a legacy," I corrected. "There's a difference." The work was fulfilling but overwhelming. I was traveling constantly, managing multiple projects, appearing in media, speaking at conferences. Success had its own weight. My therapist asked during a session, "What would happen if you stopped?" The question terrified me. Stop? I couldn't stop. There was too much to do, too much momentum, too many people depending on me. "That reaction tells you something," she observed gently. I sat with that, realized I'd been running for 2 years straight, from Claire's doubt toward success, never just existing. "I need to slow down," I admitted. "Yes," she agreed, "before you burn out." I restructured the company to be less dependent on me personally, promoted our COO to president, established clear leadership structures, set boundaries around my time and energy. It was terrifying. What if the company failed without my constant involvement? What if I became irrelevant? But the opposite happened. The team flourished with more autonomy. Projects ran smoothly, revenue increased. I took my first real vacation in 2 years. A cabin in Vermont, no Wi-Fi, just me, books, and silence. The first 3 days, I was anxious and restless. But slowly, I remembered how to just be, how to exist without constant productivity.
I thought about the journey, from that humiliating family dinner to national recognition, from desperate to prove myself to genuinely successful, from controlled by Claire's opinion to free from it. The vindication I'd craved had felt good momentarily, but this peace, this contentment, this life I'd built, this was what actually mattered. I called Claire from the cabin. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For doubting me." Sounds weird, but that doubt pushed me to discover who I really am. I'm grateful for the journey, even the painful parts. Claire was quiet for a moment. "I'm grateful you forgave me," she said finally, "and that you showed me a better way to love you," she said. We talked for an hour, not about business or achievements or vindication, just sister stuff, life, growth, love. It felt perfect. 2 years to the day after that fateful family dinner, we gathered again. Same house, my parents, but everything was different. Mom had cooked my favorite meal. Dad was already tearing up before anyone even arrived. Jake brought his now fiancé, and Claire walked in carrying a beautifully wrapped gift. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a framed photograph of my first house, the craftsman bungalow where everything began. Beneath it, Claire had written, "To my brilliant sister, who taught me that believing in someone means giving them space to soar. I'm sorry I clipped your wings, and I'm grateful you flew anyway." I hugged her, both of us crying now. Dinner was joyful. We laughed about old memories, made plans for the future, celebrated each other's victories. When dessert arrived, Dad stood to make a toast. "To Charlotte," he said, who reminded us all that family means supporting each other's dreams, not limiting them. "And to Claire," Jake added, who learned to say she was wrong and became a better person for it. We raised our glasses. I looked around the table at these people who doubted me, hurt me, and ultimately helped me become who I was meant to be. The journey hadn't been about revenge or vindication. It had been about transformation. Mine, Claire's, our family's. I'd bought a house to prove I was responsible, but I'd built a life that proved something far more important, that we're all capable of growth, change, and becoming better than we were. That was the real victory, and it was worth every difficult moment along the way.